Welcome to the Carriker Chronicles, the people show, checking the pulse of a jolly Husker nation. Merry Christmas, ladies and gentlemen. This is my gut reaction to Dane Key committing to play for the University of Nebraska in football. I've probably been talking about this one potential transfer portal commit longer than anybody. I have been talking about him longer than anybody else. But ladies and gentlemen, Merry Christmas. And if you're like me, we now have Kentucky's top wide receiver in our wide receiver room. Cal's top wide receiver, Isaiah Hunter in our wide receiver room. He led Cal in 3 different receiving categories. We have our top wide receiver, with all due respect to Banks and Naor from a year ago, but Ja'Cory Barney coming back for our wide receiver room next year. If you're excited about the young talent, also, let's not forget Jalen Lloyd. Let's not forget Cortez Mills that's coming in. Rules already talked about him potentially playing earlier, hoping he's got that mindset. Then you got guys like Carter Nelson, Heinrich Harburg, who are like Swiss Army knives in this potential offense. If you're excited about all this, and smash the like button. Also, if you just want to say Merry Christmas, smash the like button too if you like. Also, subscribe, ring that notification bell if you haven't done so as well. You never know when a show's going to drop. Like, it's Christmas Eve. Christmas is tomorrow. Let's light this candle. Like I mentioned before, we got 2 of the top 10 transfer portal wide receivers now ready to play here at the University of Nebraska. And Isaiah Hunter from Cal was, I believe, number 9 or 10 when it came to highly ranked transfer portal wide receivers. Dane Key was number 4, depending on where you looked, a top 5 wide receiver in the transfer portal as well. In case you didn't know, he was actually in high school named the best high school football player in the state of Kentucky, which doesn't always happen, that it's a wide receiver to basically be named Mr. Football in the state for whatever state that they're playing for. The last wide receiver to do that in Kentucky was a guy you might recognize, Mr. Wandale Robinson. Now, Dane Key, him specifically, all right, he's going to bring a veteran leadership to a very young, very talented wide receiver room. A season ago, he had 47 catches, 715 yards. He's 6'3", 210 pounds, and this is what stood out to me the most. 15.2 yards per reception is what he averaged. Nebraska as a team, as a whole, averaged 10 yards per reception in 2024. We really struggled to get separation, especially man-to-man coverage, and we struggled to get a lot of deep balls downfield. This is something that Key can help us with. Now, you got to keep in mind, Kentucky was 4-8 a year ago, 1-7 in conference. They had the 14th ranked passing offense in the SEC. The only 2 teams that were behind them were Vanderbilt in passing offense, were Vanderbilt and Oklahoma, Alabama's worst nightmare, by the way. But they had some real quarterback issues at Kentucky, which is why their top 2 wide receivers left and their top tight end as well. Now, I don't think we've seen Key's ceiling yet, but I do think we've seen his floor. Because when you come to Nebraska, you get a quarterback upgrade, you get an OC upgrade, you got other talent around you. Teams can't key on you, no pun intended. I think we've seen his floor at Kentucky, but we haven't seen his ceiling just yet. Just how high that ceiling is, I don't know. We're going to find out together. Now, his girlfriend is at Georgia. And when I heard that, I was like, oh, girlfriend at Georgia trumps former wide receivers coach at Kentucky, but from Kentucky at Nebraska. But a lot of this is due to NIL. And let's not kid ourselves. Players want to go play for teams that win. Until we're winning more than 4, 5, 6 games a year, it's going to be harder to attract guys. So right now, it's the brand, it's the coaches that are recruiting them, it's the NIL. When we start winning more games, that's going to help us, because regardless of what anyone else says, 1A is probably money with most players, but 1B is winning games. So winning more games will help Nebraska get more guys like this to come. All right. When you start to look at our skill position players this upcoming season, which is weird because this past season has not ended yet. We got a bowl game on Saturday. Check out my prediction show. And this is John Butler's Prove It game going into the offseason and next year, in my opinion. If you haven't seen that show, go back and check it out. I put it out just yesterday. But you look at the offensive skill positions. You got Dylan Raiola. You got Emmett Johnson at running back. You got the 3 receivers and the other Swiss Army knife type players that I've already talked about in this show. It's hard not to get excited about the skill position players. Now, I'd still think I'd love one more proven type running back. I don't think it's absolutely necessary, but I do think it'd be huge to have a 1-2 punch with Emmett and somebody else who's got experience, a little bit more proven, although we have some young, talented running backs in that room still. But we've got to get linemen. Dana Holgorsen said it. I mean, it's not rocket science. We need linemen. We need another offensive tackle. We need an interior lineman. Now, Justin Evans-Jenkins, he can go to center, he can play guard, so we need an offensive tackle, and we need an interior lineman, whether it's a center, whether it's a guard, whatever the case may be. I don't even think that that's really negotiable, in my humble opinion. Like, we need those things. But when it comes to Nebraska's skill position players, it's hard not to get excited. I'm going to give a shout out to our sponsors, DPS Concrete Construction. All right, they are your local concrete experts, ladies and gentlemen. They do a phenomenal job. When it comes to concrete work, when it comes to retaining wall work, there is nobody better. Check them out at dpsconstruction.net if this is the type of work you do. Jason Armstrong has told me, the owner of DPS, he's looking for good employees. You can't have too many good employees and good workers. If this is the type of work you do, go to dpsconstruction.net, ask for Jason Armstrong if this is the type of work you want done. dpsconstruction.net. Also, Allen Capital Group. All right, they've done my family's finances for over a decade. And I had an original financial planner. It was hard. It's hard when you don't trust somebody, when you don't know somebody. I let them go, and I brought on these guys, and I've never looked back since. I can trust them because they're great at what they do. They're intelligent. They've got great, phenomenal integrity. You can trust these guys. They're going to do a good job, and gals. The entire company, Allen Capital Group, they have offices in Ogallala, Grand Island, and Omaha. Check them out at allencapgroup.com. That's ALLENCAP group.com. Allen Capital Group, next level solutions for next level needs. I couldn't have done that if I'd have tried. Now, let's not forget, when you look at the rest of the offense and guys that we brought in, quarterback Marcos Davila from Purdue, a highly talented freshman quarterback with a bright future. So we've got a quarterback with experience in Raiola. We've got depth at quarterback now with Davila, and Latif is practicing with the team right now. So we got a 1, 2, 3 in that quarterback room, however 2 and 3 pan out. And then you've got multiple proven wide receivers. You've got young, talented guys at skill positions. You've got Swiss Army knives. Fedoni at tight end. He's got a ton of experience. And we just need some O-linemen up front. And there's a lot to be excited about with this Nebraska offense. All right, let's talk about a couple other things. Now, it's a gut reaction. We want to get this out quick. We're trying to get to church. We're trying to do family presents. So instead of my wife putting them up on the screen, I'm just going to hold these things up for you to see. All right. So, Nebraska Basketball beat Hawaii 69-55 last night. Shout out to Bryce Williams and Jawan Gary. Hawaii's whole team had 55 points. Those two players combined, Williams and Gary, had 53 to advance to the Diamond Head Classic title game, which they're going to play 7:30 p.m. Central Time on Christmas, December 25th versus Oregon State. Oh, I should mention, we've had 5 players, all right, recently that have committed from the Kansas City area. And that Kansas City pipeline is being built when it comes to football. All right, a couple other things. Real quick, Connor Essegian this year is shooting 49% from the field, 44% from three-point range, 82% from the free throw line. All right, this was tweeted out by Kevin Schutz. Nebraska Volleyball finishes 4th in the final polls. Personally, I think they're number 2 behind Penn State. Whatever the case may be, if you want to put Louisville number 2, whatever. They're finished top 4. Congratulations on a great season. A Final Four appearance should never be taken for granted. All right, what do we got next here? Shout out to Vincent Shavers, sporting that black shirt. All right, right there, I think I'm pointing to the right thing. Sporting that black shirt. Congratulations. I remember my first black shirt that I earned. And actually, I've got daughters that are going to be wearing my old jerseys. If you're at the Bad Boys Pinstripe Bowl, I can never, Bad Boy Moore's Pinstripe Bowl. I can't say that bowl game without chuckling. They're going to be wearing some of my black shirts and my old jerseys. So you might see them running around wearing those outside their coats. And Deion Sanders, Colorado will provide disability insurance for those players playing in the Alamo Bowl. You want more players to play in bowl games? You need to find a way to incentivize them. They should frankly sign contracts and be fined if they don't show up, but also disability insurance in case you get hurt. There's ways to make bowl games matter or college football matter without the insanity that we have in general. Kurt Signetti, Mr. We beat the S out of top 25 teams. I got 2 daughters sitting right over there that'll come join us at the end. Indiana versus ranked teams this year. Outscored 32 and 65, 0 and 2. Indiana versus non-ranked opponents this year. Outscored their opponents 505 to 138, and they were 11 and 0. And their best win was actually against a just over 500 Michigan team. I'm going to give my college football predictions here shortly for round 2, my final ones. I kind of gave a preview in my previous show. These are my final ones, but Ohio State has played 3 top 10 teams in 7 games since the Oregon game. They haven't given up a single passing touchdown since the Oregon game on October 12th. And they're about to play the top quarterback in the country, in my opinion, at least collegiately, in Dylan Gabriel. So there's that right there. That was obviously a Buckeyes outlet. Oh, poor Bevo's not going to be allowed on the sidelines for the ChickfilA Peach Bowl, just like he wasn't inside that same place in Atlanta, Georgia, when they played Georgia in the SEC title game. He's not going to be allowed on the sidelines for when they play Arizona State. The Peach Bowl put out this big long thing, basically, gag me, use mascot will not be allowed there. This is Oregon just released their Rose Bowl uniforms. I might have to pick Oregon now. Kirk Herbstreit and Shannon Sharpe are going at each other. Well, Shannon Sharpe's going at Kirk. Basically, Kirk called out Shannon, who's not necessarily a college football expert, for talking about Ryan Day potentially being fired and Deion's going to be the next coach, and him and Stephen A. Smith did it. And then Kirk basically said, no, I've talked to the brass at Ohio State. You know, he was a former quarterback and team captain there. He's got probably the biggest voice in college football, or one of them. He's like, no, they don't want to get rid of Ryan Day. Shannon Sharpe went off if you didn't see this. He basically said, don't play with me. Kirk, Chris Fowler, I promise you, if you ever mention my name on any platform I'm on again talking about, I wonder what they're going to say, talking about First Take. That's what Kirk had to say as negativity. I promise you, ESPN ain't got enough bosses to keep me off y'all for that. And what I'm going to say, don't play with me. This is some interesting drama at the ESPN SEC network, ladies and gentlemen. All right, I think that about wraps everything up. So Andrew Marshall, the DB from Idaho, has not committed to Nebraska yet. He has been crystal balled to commit. We'll keep our eye on that. All right, my official predictions for the round 2 of the college football playoff games, the Sugar Bowl. Now, 3 of these 4 games, the lower seeded team, because we seeded this improperly, are actually favored. Now, I've seen Notre Dame favored. I've seen Georgia favored. The last one I looked at said Georgia was favored by 1.5. Initially, it was Georgia 1.5. Notre Dame, I spoke wrong the other day. I got Notre Dame over Georgia. Ohio State's a 2.5-point favorite over Oregon. I got Ohio State. I think having that bye week is phenomenal, except now you've got 4 to 5 weeks off, whereas Ohio State's already played in the college football playoff game and now they're rolling. I think that's an advantage Ohio State. The bye week may not be as helpful as you think. I've got Ohio State. All right, gag me you. They're going to thump Arizona State. They're a 13.5-point favorite. Fiesta Bowl. Boise State is a 10.5-point dog to Penn State. The Fightin' Eric Chenanders. I'm calling for the upset. I've got the Fightin' Eric Chenanders. Shout out to my guy. Boise, he's just good to me. Boise State over Penn State. And we already know that Oregon and Ohio State are better than Penn State anyways. All right, as always, check out CarrikerChronicles.com. It's where all your Husker sports hopes and dreams will come true. We got basketball updates. We had volleyball updates. We got the bowl game updates, preview, prediction, reaction, CarrikerChronicles.com. And again, Nebraska Basketball 9-2. As you know, beat Creighton by 11 points in their house earlier this year. Going to play Oregon State Christmas night for the championship in that tournament. Here are my 3 questions for you fine folks at home. Number 1, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you for Nebraska's skill position players, all right, that we now have going into next season, and especially with Dana Holgorsen calling the plays? Number 2, will Nebraska men's basketball make the NCAA tournament again this year? Number 3, Nebraska women's basketball has been ranked most of the season. They're currently 10-2. Their next 2 games are number 1 UCLA, number 4 USC, because they're Big Ten teams now. Will they beat at least one of those teams? At least one. Let me know. Go Big Red Nose. Remember to throw the bug.